We're back for your ears only. I'm Melissa Axelberth.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. "I am not clinging to my seat." That was Greek Prime Minister George Papandreou after calling off a controversial referendum on new austerity measures demanded by European lenders and before winning a parliamentary vote of confidence. But opposition demands may still force him out of a new transitional unity government. Now this.
Instead of workers going to work, and students going to school, the people will converge downtown. To shut down the city.
They busted out our windows, they stole a couple things, they knocked over our register.
Occupy Oakland demonstrators took a more aggressive tack last week as promised, marching through the streets, picketing banks, and at least briefly paralyzing one of the nation's major ports. Some rogue groups committed acts of minor vandalism as coffee shop manager Cherie Rivers complained to the AP, and more than 100 people were arrested. In New York, the first of hundreds arrested in Occupy Wall Street demonstrations appeared in court, but only 9 took a deal to have charges dropped after 6 months of good behavior.
Meanwhile, less dangerous and demanding alternatives or additions to the Occupy strategy were emerging. One is called Move Your Money, inspired by a Eugene Jarecki documentary urging transfer of personal funds from bailed-out national bank chains to local savings institutions and credit unions. Another began with a video gone viral called Keep Wall Street Occupied by poet provocateur Artie Moffa. Here's what he had to say.
Hi. Do you get a lot of junk mail? I do. Most of the junk mail I get is unsolicited credit card offers, and up until Occupy Wall Street, I used to just toss these in the bin unopened. But Occupy Wall Street got me thinking. These offers are from the same financial institutions that ruined our economy by speculating on the housing market. This isn't junk mail. This is an opportunity for a dialogue. Why? Well, see, inside every one of these credit card offers is one of these. It's a business reply mail envelope. The banks sign contracts with the post office to get these envelopes, and they only pay postage on the envelopes that get mailed back. Now, the banks are assuming that we'll use these envelopes to send in our credit card applications, but we don't want more credit cards, do we? We certainly don't want them from the big banks that caused the financial crisis. But we can use these envelopes in other ways. We can have a dialogue. So, phase 1, this is the easiest. Everyone can do this. Just take the envelope, lick it, seal it, and send it back empty. It's quick, it's easy, it takes you 5 seconds at the mailbox every day, and it costs the bank about 25 cents. Now I know that means banks pay less for postage than we do, but please, let's have that protest another day. Now phase 2, if you're willing to put a little more work into it, would be to send it back full. Just take all the materials that came in the envelope, put them in there. Take the envelope itself, put that in there. I mean, after all, the heavier the envelope is, the more it's going to cost them in postage. And then any other junk mail you got that day that you think might be interesting to them. Like I got this baby products catalog, and I'll put that in there. I mean, bankers have babies, and being immoral doesn't mean you're infertile. The other thing that I do is I send them a note. I printed out a bunch of notes on my printer, and I just clip them out and I put one in with each envelope. That way, they know that this wasn't just a miscommunication. It actually was communication. This one says, "Hello, big bank clerk, please join a union." Now, phase 3, if you're willing to put a little bit of money into it, and I do mean a little bit, would be a wood shim. This is a wood shim. It's exactly what it looks like. It's a piece of wood. You can get a pack of 12 of these at a hardware store for about $1.50. Now, a wood shim, when you put that into the envelope, oh, and put a message on it too, so that it's actually communication. This one is #OWS for Occupy Wall Street. Put the shim in the envelope, and suddenly the envelope becomes really heavy, and more importantly, it becomes rigid. Why does that matter? Well, a rigid mail piece costs more in postage to mail. That's why Netflix has to pay more money for their DVD mailers than like you pay to send a postcard. You can go further with this idea. I think the gold standard for postage paid protest would be something like a roofing shingle, because that's really heavy and dense and crumbly. But it's important that this should be about communication. So I think that putting some sort of message, clear, rational, debate, a slogan, something you saw on a good sign, I think that that matters too. Think about the scene in a mailroom at a big bank when they get a few dozen roofing shingles, a few hundred wood shims, and a few thousand empty envelopes. They're probably going to have a meeting about it. And that's the point of this. This isn't really about running up the postage bill in the big banks, although that's a nice side effect. The real effect of this is to force banks to react to us. If they start getting hundreds and thousands of weird responses to their credit card applications, well, they're going to have meetings. They're going to have to develop new procedures. And every hour banks spend reacting to us is an hour banks don't spend lobbying Congress on how to screw us. It's an hour banks don't spend foreclosing on our houses. So I think that that's progress. Now, this postage-paid protest sort of thing, this is no substitute for getting out into the street and making your voices heard. The Occupy Wall Street movement started in the street, and for the time being, that's where the life of this protest is. But after you've been out there lending your voice to the crowd, or if you happen to live in a city that's away from the big cities that are having major Occupy movements, go to your mailbox, spend 5 seconds sorting through your junk mail, and send some stuff back to these guys. If you can't occupy Wall Street, you can at least keep Wall Street occupied. Thanks for watching.
As his video approached 500,000 downloads, Moffa uploaded a PS.
Hi. Last week I posted a video about how we can keep Wall Street occupied by using the business reply mail envelopes that the big banks send us in with their credit card offers. This is not the original video. I just had a few quick follow-up thoughts. Number one, please do it. It's great that the video bounces around the internet and people are laughing, but this only starts a conversation with the banks if lots of people mail the envelopes back. Number two, please don't overdo it. Some people are really running with the notion that because the heavier envelopes cost more in postage, they should take the envelope and stick it on a brick, or I'm going to put it on a rabid alligator, or I'm going to put it on a bowling ball. Don't do that. Please don't do that. It's overkill. It's unrealistic. Alligators are reptiles. They can't have rabies. And all you really need to do is up the weight a little bit. Put in some information about unions that the bank mail clerks can join. Put in some cardboard. Put in some pennies. Put in the rest of the junk mail you got that day. It's also totally okay to mail back the empty envelope. You're still part of the conversation that way. Number three, please don't be a wimp. Some people are freaked out that the banks are going to read a barcode, or they're going to get your fingerprints on the envelope and they're going to track you down and then you'll be in trouble. Well, the banks aren't going to do that. That would be a huge hassle. And also, that's not trouble. People in this country got tear gassed this week because they went out in public and they spoke their mind. That's getting in trouble. This is low-key minor league stuff, and I get that, I do. Please, we can all be brave enough to send in some empty envelopes. Number four, please don't call this an alternative protest. This is not an alternative to Occupy Wall Street. This is an additional protest. This should be a small part of the Occupy Wall Street movement. It's still important to be out there in the streets.
Poet provocateur Artie Moffa's Keep Wall Street Occupied videos.
Next, the Bush-era program threatened by the deficit, for your ears only.